Welcome everybody to Wine and Tea Wednesday. I'm Diahanne Johnson, also known as a womanologist. And as you can see, Mim's not with us today, but we salute Mim. Wine and Tea Wednesdays is a broadcast of the function of GW4W, Global Women for Wellbeing. So if you're a regular viewer, welcome. If this is your first time watching, then welcome. Where have you been? We've been waiting for you to come and join us. We know that you're going to enjoy this show today. Before we get into today's show, whether you're watching live or on the replay, we want you to know that these shows are really made with you in mind. They are for women and leaders and our allies who care about this issue of women in leadership. And so we really want you to interact with us. We want you to use your comment box as a virtual voice. So if you have something to say, you have a question, you have a comment, something sticks out at you, then please go ahead and write it in the chat. I hope you've got yourself a beverage, because here we like to sit together. And I also want you to remember that these shows are converted into podcasts that you can pick up on iTunes and Spotify after the program. So today, we'll be talking about domestic violence. It's not a strange topic for Wine and Tea Wednesday. We've spoken about it before, but I think it'll be slightly different today. And before we get into that, let me introduce our co-host, Caroline Ribeiro Nelson. You all know and love her very well, like we do. She's a health and well-being consultant, founder and head at Free Choices. It's a firm that helps organizations to create a positive culture around mental well-being, anti-racism, diversity and inclusion, and all that good stuff. So welcome, Caroline, again.
Thanks, Dion. It's great to be here. I'm so excited to be speaking with Diahanne today.
Yeah, so let's just get on with the show today then. Dr. Dr Rhiney is CEO at Naked Truth PR agency. She's a co-founder of the Black Wall Street Media, and she's also a global empowerment ambassador for women and girls. So as a result of that, I'm thinking that she's the founder and chief at S.W.I.M, which is Strength Within Me Foundation, a domestic violence charity. She is also the founder and chair of the Baton Awards. And really, this woman is a founder at heart. She is on a mission to build a community of self-empowered women. And we are really excited to welcome you to the show. Welcome to Wine and Tea Wednesday, Diahanne.
Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, like I am too. You know that I've known you from afar. We've had conversations, and I've admired you and your work from afar for a long time in social media land. And I really didn't know that you had a personal story around domestic violence. I'm really excited to hear your story today. So it's a personal experience for you, and you've turned that experience into triumph. Like you're a prolific founder, you're a prolific supporter of women, and I just love for you to share more about where this deep commitment comes and why this work means so much to you.
The commitment comes from actually my mother. I was so blessed to have a mum who really raised me to be strong, to be empowered, to know my strength, to know my worth, because I think that's something we don't talk enough about. I know we talk about diversity, which to me has become like a buzzword, and inclusion, which are completely different, because I don't think we have enough of the inclusion. But most important to me, it's about equity, my value, what I bring to the table. Nobody talks about my equity, which is huge. All of ours is huge. So I come from this mum who was just about women, and especially women of color, and about getting on and doing things. So I think it's, my mum always says I was born this way, because from a very young age, I mean, young, like even when I was 2, I would be like, I'm getting ready to do this and stuff like that. So I've just had that deep commitment. And as I've, matured, we go through life and different situations hit us. And I know it sounds strange, because when I was younger, beating down barriers was just nothing. I didn't even see barriers. But life happens and you get to realize, oh, I'm a woman. Oh, I've got to work harder. Oh my God, I'm a Black woman. I've got to work even harder. Oh, I'm a Black woman with a hidden disability. Oh my God, I've got to work harder. And those things came later on in life, where you'd actually get your self-esteem, your confidence knocked on the way, on this journey. And then when I happened to meet, what it was actually, my mum died very, very suddenly. And I then realized that this amazing woman of strength, I felt so vulnerable. And then I happened to meet somebody, and he presented as this real cool, he was highly intelligent, worked for a very, very top bank, doing his stuff. And we just connected because I was traveling a lot, but we just seemed to have the same ambitions and drive. So I thought, and that's me, the psychologist. Sometimes when they say it's your own, it's a bit like, some of the best hairdressers, you look at their hair and you say, but this is the psychologist in me. I'm great at what I do, but I don't know why I didn't see these signs before. But anyway, and so I didn't even realize that gradually, little bits, he used to always say that I was a bit of a snob, and I'm so that he said, oh, I speak too proper, and just little things to try and bring down my self-esteem. And at the time, you don't realize he used to make it into banter. And then sometimes you think, do I think like that? I don't think like that. I wasn't raised like that. So this went on for a period of time. So like I said, my mum died suddenly, and then I was in this space of really trying to find who I was again, without my mum, without that inner strength. And I remember I was in Atlanta. It was so weird. I was in Atlanta, waiting in the lobby, and there was a couple. They were married. You could see that they were married, and his collar was not straight, and his wife was just fixing his collar. But it was weird because they had this. When you just sit, I'm an observer.
Yeah.
They had this unspoken love, this unspoken commitment, unspoken and I just felt that, and I thought, I don't have that in my relationship, and this is what I want, and this is what I deserve. So I come back and I'm like, it's been great, but I really am in a space of trying to find myself. And I just think that maybe we want different things in our relationship. And I remember going upstairs, and he seemed quite fine. So I thought. And then he came upstairs and he said, well, you're not going anywhere. So I generally thought, I wasn't even paying much attention, just thinking nothing of it.
Yeah.
And he goes, the only way you're leaving me is dead. I was like, thinking, but he wasn't joking, And this is a man who I'd been with for 3 years. And I can't tell you where his gun came from. I don't know anybody who holds a gun. I think I just was in this daze, and then he literally put a gun to my head and said, and repeated himself, the only way you're leaving me is dead. And I remember my whole world just flashing. It was just like in this. And all I kept saying and all I kept hearing was my mum saying, this is not your chapter. This is not your story. And I kept thinking, this is not how I want to die. Thank you very much, But it was that instant fear, that fear, vulnerability. It just seemed to take forever, but it must have been seconds. But this is when I say there is a God, and a God that I love so much, because he literally did pull the trigger, but the gun got jammed.
Wow.
And I just thought, this is my one chance to make a run for it. And that's what I did. I remember kicking him, running, trying to find, when I watch films, I say, just pick up the car keys, come on, go up, run, and you just don't think, you just, the adrenaline. But I happened to get my car keys. I managed to remember the code to get downstairs and I was gone. But I know this sounds strange. I still kept thinking, even after when I was going through it, I sat down, I went to it was just so much. I just was in shock for a good while. And she was saying we should go to the police and all these kinds of things. But at that time, I kept thinking, well, I haven't gone through domestic violence. That's not me.
Yeah.
I wasn't beaten every day. This kind of ridiculous justification, like he just had to, just flipped, no, he did not.
Yeah.
Because after the fact, when I started to speak out, the amount of people who come forward that he had done this before.
Yeah. Wow. That the same man had done this before.
Yeah. I mean, recently I had a conversation like this, and somebody contacted me on social media and said, I think you and I had the same abuser. And I thought, what? She said things that you described in detail.
Wow.
And it was horrific.
Diahanne, that story is terrifying. For you to have been in a situation where someone wanted to take your life, and for some divine intervention that you were able to escape, to tell your story, and then to go out and to be able to live a life where you're supporting other women find their voice, find their place, find their strength, is so, so powerful. And you have such a strong focus on empowerment, on personal and professional empowerment for women. What is it about empowerment that is so important and meaningful, particularly in relation to domestic violence?
Because when you go through domestic violence, you feel so alone. You feel, I must have done something. And I don't care if you're the strongest of women. I've always been my own boss. I am successful because I can pay my bills by the work I bring in. All of these stuff, I've come from a very confident background, but I still felt vulnerable. I felt alone. I didn't feel that I had people that I could talk to, even though I have the most close-knit family, I have my tribe. But I think it's because I felt like I failed. And to be honest, the only reason why I began to speak up is I was doing a talk in America, in Washington actually, to about 10,000 women. And it was probably about 6 or 7 months after my ex-partner had tried to kill me. I hadn't said to many people, really anyone, I kept it all because I felt like, well, how can I be this strong woman and this happened to me, I'm a failure. I really generally was walking around with this, I'm a failure. And I was doing this talk. I went, I was the keynote speaker. I went up and I absolutely froze to all these women. And then I just said to them, I didn't even realize they could hear me, or I was talking, I was kind of talking to myself, having this internal dialogue with myself. And I said, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't be here because, I'm this strong woman here to talk to you about, being strong and going for it. And I'm a failure. And I just blurted out what had happened. And I said, I just shouldn't be here. And I got a standing ovation.
Wow.
And then I realized and I recognized, you know what? I'm not a victim. I'm a victor. Yeah. So I don't use the word victim. I'm a victor, and it was having that tribe around me that helped empower me, helped me find my voice again. Why I'm so passionate about giving that voice back to other women and letting them know, sisters, you are a victor.
Yeah.
You are not a victim.
I mean, what you share is so powerful, because what's really what I see when you describe this part of your story is how what's happening in the way we see ourselves, in the way that we're living our lives, in the way that's happening outside of work, actually it comes with us into work. It comes with us into leadership. It comes with us into our roles. And so there is this real connection, isn't there? Sometimes we like to think that we're kind of two different people, but actually,
no, we're one.
That we're one, right? And that this is coming with us to. So how do you see in your work that kind of that what's happening out here in our weakest, most vulnerable place, traveling into work with us? What's the impact? How's that showing?
Oh, well, it's major, isn't it? Because think of it, if you're going through something personal and you don't feel valid, you don't feel worth it, whatever you do, you're not going to give it your 100%.
Right.
You're not going to feel like what you produce in work is valid. You're going to think, you start double guessing yourself, you know, oh, do I know this?
Yeah.
When you've all known it all your life, you start to doubt yourself. And that's when that imposter syndrome type thing comes in, and you're like, can I do this? Is this something that I do? You know, you should really, it really starts to affect your work. It starts to affect everything. You know, it filters out. It's like if you think about when you are watering a flower or a plant and you start in one place, the water filters out. And that's the same as we are.
Yeah.
You know, what's going on internally, the core, our spirituality, what makes us us, the core, our soul, our being, our brain, our intellect, all of these things are combined, you know. And that's why when I wrote my book All About Me, it really was saying, if you are not whole, fully inside, you're no good to anyone, anything, any work, any business. You're just not going to. And I always use the analogy, when you go on the plane, God forbid if the plane start go down or have some problem, but what do they say to you? Put the mask on yourself, but before your children. And that's because you need the oxygen. If you are putting it on your children and you can't breathe and you that's no good.
It makes perfect sense, Diahanne, that, you know, investment in yourself and self-care is so important in who you are and your strengths to be able then to go out and do what you need to do. And just listening to you speak, it goes back to what you first started with, and you talked about the challenges of intersectionality combined with your life experience. When you experience something like domestic violence, it shapes the way that you view the world. It shapes your own identity, your self-esteem, what you feel you're capable of or not capable of.
Definitely.
And it goes with you wherever you are, in the workplace, in your social activities and environment. And it's so important to be able to acknowledge that and to claim that as something that is part of your strength and your diverse background that you can bring to the fore to actually learn, develop and support other people rather than to shut it out and to close it off.
I'm telling you, I sorry to butt in, I'm gagging at the bits to know what happened when you ran away. Like I'm gagging at the bits to know how did you go from grabbing your car keys to building this life that you're living now, where you're supporting all these people and founding all these projects?
You know what, funny, Dion, I for a good many years dropped off this, you know, the planet, I would say, but I literally moved. I went to somewhere in the middle of nowhere because that was my time to heal. It was my time to know that I have scars, but guess what? I wear them with pride, and learning that that's okay to do that. And that's why in my book, I have bits what say, I tell you a bit about my life, a bit of memoirs about my life. And then I say lessons learned, because it's lessons learned. It's not failures. It's lessons learned. It becomes a failure if you keep going through the same thing and you're not learning from them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's lessons learned. And then I said, you know what? If service is beneath you, leadership is above you. You learn to serve. You learn to serve others. And to me, that it was just brought home to me that for whatever reason, what happened to me was not nice. And it shouldn't have happened to me, but it did. And if it happened for a reason. And I'm going to take the learnings from that really traumatic situation in my life, and I'm going to turn it into light. And I'm going to turn that into light for others, because I believe God has given me that purpose. And my purpose is to enable many women who really don't feel they have a voice to have a voice, because we all do.
Yeah. I think, Diahanne, that whole experience that you shared with us, from the strength that you got from your mother and you being shaped by your own experience of domestic violence, and your focus then on supporting women in terms of empowerment. And you have also a really strong focus in your work on social change and making a social impact. That's very much what is meaningful in your work, in helping women make that change. What do you think is the most significant or important change that you're looking for women that can make a difference in their lives?
I think for me, and it's interesting because I've been often talking about this, is we often talk about leadership, and you know, you might be coaching people to go into leadership positions and stuff, but you know what? I am all about you really helping women become leadership of themselves. And there's a big difference. You have to have leadership of yourself, of your dreams, of your passions, of your skills, before you can lead anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that is so crucial, because for some of us, you know, this generation we're in at the moment, we're so consumed about what others think, you know, and all of this stuff, and we go through macro aggressions and all these stuff. But ultimately, we have to have that leadership to the core of ourselves first. And that is what's core to me, you know, and that is when we can make systemic change. That's when we can really make a difference. Because once you have leadership of yourselves, let me tell you, I'm not always right, but I will have a voice for the things that I believe in. I hate injustice on any level.
Yeah.
You know, how dare I have to work harder because I'm a woman? How dare you that I have to work harder because I'm a woman and I'm actually a Black woman? How dare you? I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman, I have a hidden disability. No, not on my watch.
Yeah.
And I will do my best to ensure that I help other women to find their voice. I mean, I've got twin girls, and I tell them all the time, do you know what I mean? You are enough, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
Got goosebumps listening to you.
Yeah.
Some of the lessons we can hear, some of the lessons coming out. You are enough. You know, I really love what you say about taking time to heal. Post, you know, what we really wanted to focus on in this program was about how to rebuild, how to go through the horrors, the shame, the guilt, the perplexion, if that's a word, of being in that kind of situation, and then moving from that to building this life where it's meaningful, where you're in tune with who you are, you're in leadership of yourself. Like, you've made it sound real easy. You've made it sound like that transition is something that, you know, you just kind of did in your sleep. But
I wish.
We know it wasn't. We know it wasn't. But if there are people who are watching this now and maybe they've exited, maybe they're thinking about exiting, and they're looking at, you know, starting from scratch, starting again, rebuilding, like what would you say? We've got a few minutes left. Like, what would you say to those women who are...
I think the first steps are you have to be still, you know, and that stillness comes that calm. It's that time for you to really connect with yourself. And I know people say, what are you talking about? I say, go on a date with yourself, eat alone, do these stuff. You have to go back to finding out who you are. And that's the process. And that is not easy. And looking in the mirror, trust me, I've had to learn some things about myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do I want to accept that I can at times be an enabler? No, but I can be.
Yeah.
But I found out about that when I was looking in the mirror, when I had my time of stillness.
Yeah.
You know, it's like looking in the mirror and saying, don't know about you. Because most of us, when you really ask yourself, do I really know myself? Do I say yes when I want to say no? Do I, am I doing this? Am I enabling people, to treat me in a certain way? It doesn't mean that if somebody treats you wrong, that they're right. But what can I take out of that experience? I also say another good step is, I know in the UK, me being, dual nationality, but in the UK, it's all about not particularly always going to a therapist, whereas I'm a big advocate for that. Yeah. Going to speak to somebody, to really sit down and have that honest conversation, I think is key. I think anybody who goes through any type of trauma, whether it be domestic violence, anything, see a therapist. Have that independent voice that can stabilize you, because it's really, really important. And then I think it goes back to then looking at about, who am I? Once you've got to that place of recognizing who you are, having a date with yourself, connecting with yourself again, you then try to think, let me do a little life plan here. What is it I now want to do for me, for the world, for society, for your tribe, for your community? And then you start to, plan that out, step by step. It's like baby again, they take one little step, it's each little baby steps at a time. And do it at your pace. People love to tell you, oh, you should be over that by now.
Yeah.
Excuse me? I will be over it when I want to be over it.
Yeah.
So I think these are the things. It's not easy. If I'm honest with you, am I 100% back at that confident, sassy, young lady I was? Hell no. Will I ever be that person again? No. So what I've had to accept through domestic violence, through losing my mother, who is my best friend, my everything, through lots of experiences, I've now been a little bit fatter. Sorry, the word is fat, a little bit fatter. But you know what? When I used to model and do all those stuff, that was then. What I've had to do, and I'd give that one bit of advice to every woman out there, accept who you are now. This is the Diahanne who I am now, with all her flaws, scars, and I love me. And when you can get to that place, truly, I love me, and that's not being arrogant, anything like that. It's saying, I love me first before you, Dion, before you, Caroline, before anybody out there. Sorry, even my girls, I love me first so that I'm able to be the person I am to my tribe.
Goosebumps. And I know that we could spend another hour or two digging into all of this stuff. I hear you say feel, I hear you say speak therapy, I hear you say step by step envisioning of your future, and I hear you say self-acceptance. And on that note, Dr. Diahanne Rhiney, we honor you and thank you so much for being with us today. It's incredible. Thank you.
And thank you. And I honor you guys for having me on and doing what you're doing. And this is what we need. We need more of this.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, viewers, I know that was food for thought. Even if you are not associated with domestic violence, I know that there was something in today's show for you. Let's know what you're thinking. Use the chat. And we say it every week, but if you have not already, please go and download the white paper from GW4W website. It's a really great read. It talks about some of the issues that we've even started to talk about today, and it's research based. And if you have a topic that you'd like us to cover, we're really approaching fast to series 7. So if there's something that you want us to talk about, then let us know either in the chat or get in touch. We want to make these shows applicable to you. Next week is our last show in series 6. We're going on to series 7 soon, but next week is a really special show because the founders of GW4W, MIM 7th and 9th board, will be with us to talk about the vision of this great movement, this great think tank, and you don't want to miss that. They're incredible women who are making things happen about the things that they care about, so please tune into that. And that's it really. Until next time, I want you to raise your glasses and remember that great minds sip together.
Hey.
See you next time.